Hey guys, sorry about that, but I wanted to come on here, and since Halloween is this Sunday, which is a rare occurrence, especially if you look at it from a religious standpoint, I wanted to come on here and give you a bit of an episode review of something I've talked about before, and that is, well, it's not technically an episode, well, it is part of an episode, but it's a short. Basically, it's a part of the episode, it's about 7 minutes short, and that is Moon Over Minerva. Yeah, that's right, it's Moon Over Minerva, and the reason I want to talk about it is because the timing of its premiere when it came out was around Halloween, and I think around 1993. It was around Halloween time, and I was out here with my family still before moving. Oh, actually, I just moved back. Actually, I just me and my family had just moved back from Kansas after spending 6 months there, due to the fact that originally we thought we were going to live someplace else in Kansas, and then we found out that wasn't the case, and just things didn't work out the way that my dad and my mom, most of my dad, had planned. But anyway, we came back. Animaniacs had just debuted, and this was one of the first episodes that they released, they released it in time for Halloween. And the segments that accompanied this episode, besides Moon Over Minerva, were the bedeviled ones, were basically the Warners. They go through the traditional Bugs Bunny, route, directional route thing. They're digging through the ground and everything. And you think, well, why are they doing that? Well, basically because, well, honestly, the cartoon calls for it, and I think they kind of acknowledge that, where they end up basically digging themselves straight to hell. They end up digging themselves straight to hell, if you will, and they encounter Satan himself. And then, of course, what follows afterwards is, after that segment, or that short, we get Moon Over Minerva, and then we get Mr. Skullhead Show. We get the Mr. Skullhead Show, which is a character, believe it or not, that originated in Tiny Toons thanks to Elmira. So they ended up giving him his own segments here in Animaniacs. And in this segment that they did for this episode, it was a parody of Edward Scissorhands. So yeah, there was that. But the one that stood out the most, of course, was Moon Over Minerva, because we had seen Minerva in the opening credits and everything, in the crowd shots and all that. But we didn't think maybe she would get her own cartoon, and yet here it is. She has her own cartoon. A little behind the scenes information. This was actually supposed to be the second Minerva cartoon to be released, but due to production reasonings, it became the first. In other words, something happened behind the scenes to where Meet Minerva, which became the second cartoon with Minerva to air, originally was supposed to come first, and this was supposed to come second. That didn't happen, and production schedules and stuff, from what I understand, caused it to come first. This also basically is notable for the fact that during future re-airings, there was some things that were edited down a little bit when it came to the episode. Basically, like, Minerva's cleavage when she's wearing her dress had to be reduced into what was called a uniboob, as they called it. So just a lot of detail, just some things were changed here and there. And unfortunately, this and Meet Minerva were the only two solo cartoons she had because, as noted, her character was always looked at as being over-sexualized and everything, and just not appropriate for a kid's show. Although Animaniacs, and to an extent prior to that, Tiny Toons borderline the fact of whether or not they were a show for kids or they were a show for everybody, mostly adults, just by some of the, innuendos and content they would throw in there or sneak in there. But Meet Minerva, Moon Over Minerva, I should say, and that's the thing about this review. Moon Over Minerva was one of those episodes that, like I said, the timing of its initial airing was around Halloween in 1993, and this episode was really funny in many ways, because one, it did kind of serve as an introductory to Minerva, but it also introduced us to another character as well, whose voice actor recently passed away. He recently passed away about a week ago, and he had voiced not Wilford, but he also voiced other characters, and he also starred in a live action show as well. And recently he had passed away this month. So again, the timing for the review is ironic, because this is around the time frame back in 1993 where the episode debuted. The episode, though, like I said, originally was supposed to be the second episode aired, or the second Minerva short aired, and not the first one. But it does kind of serve like an introductory season, because the first time we see Minerva, she's wearing like a little headband or little scarf or something like that she takes off and waves her hair around and lets it come down a little bit. And the reaction that a lot of the animals, mostly the male animals, give her when they first see her or see what she's doing, is very telling of what you're going to get in the cartoon. Like the males react differently to what she does. Like, for example, when she pulls a pin, out of her, area, out of her cleavage area, one of the animals, I think it's the bird, one of the male bird, he spins around on the branch next to his female companion and then pulls out his tongue and acts like a freaking jackpot machine with coins coming out. And then when she kind of waves, her, takes her head thing off and then waves her hair around, I think the rabbit, the male rabbit, acts like, turns himself into freaking blinds with, turns himself into blinds and a rocket. Well, basically he's a rocket on the blinds and he takes off. And then there's something else, I think, afterwards that she does. And then you see a male frog, he's dancing and everything. And then the answer to that by the female frog, his companion, is bring out a freaking cannon and blow him away, if you will. But yeah, that's how we kind of get introduced to her, and we get introduced to how males react to her because she is drawn so beautifully. I mean, fans have gone down on record in saying that she is the most beautifully drawn character, along with Hello Nurse, in the series. She's one of the more beautifully drawn out characters alongside Hello Nurse. But again, the reactions that the male characters give her, when we first get introduced, is a very telling sign, I should say, of what you're going to get in the short. And then, of course, this is even amplified when you see Wilford, who's a geeky nerd who has a thing for her, trying to win her over, wanting to go out with her, trying to do what he can, and everything. And of course, you kind of get an idea of who she is, especially, she's writing in her diary, writing her thoughts. And then when the last thing she writes before Wilford shows up is that, hopefully she'll meet somebody with really rich parents. So you kind of get an idea that, she's kind of like a split personality. Like, she has a good heart, but she also has a very, self-centered side to her. Like, she has a goodness to her, but it's self-centered and everything, and all she cares about is money and fame and all that, and just being rich. But you can also tell in a way that, like I said, she has kind of a good nature to her. You just don't see it until later on, and then in future appearances by her as well. And here, Wilford, of course, like I say, he approaches her, tries to win her over. She teases him. To the point that not only do you get the goosebumps in the back of his neck, but it gets to a point when she says about whispering things in his ear, and that causes him to literally melt into a puddle. Like the top of his head turns into a freaking siren, and he literally just melts right there. And you're thinking by the fact that he melts the way he does, to where his face just goes completely blah and everything, that he's just going to be a completely melted puddle, right? Well, he basically becomes what I called yesterday in a video the semi-melt version, where basically his head's sticking out. And, as he's looking up at her and she's looking down at him, she's like, not in this lifetime, Jack. Not in this lifetime, bud. And she just, spins away and everything. So you kind of you get the idea that, she knows she has a thing for him, but, she has a reputation and all that. And again, you learn a little bit more about her as the episode goes on. And then, of course, you learn more about her in the following episode, which was supposed to be the first episode, but you kind of get the idea, what happened there, like I said. But like I said, she basically teases him, and she basically lets him know she's not going to be going out with him or anything like that. And he does things to a point that he tries to get her attention. He tries to get her attention to the point that he tries to make himself a one-man band and tries to sing to her, which she rejects. And then feeling just downtrodden, he decides, okay, he's just going to howl his sadness, because he's a wolf. So naturally he's got to howl. Not realizing basically that he's about to get, a big change occurring for that night. And what happens is he's howling, he's just sitting down distraught. All of a sudden the moon comes out, and all of a sudden he goes through the change that turns him into what is essentially the Fabio version of who he is, the Fabio alter version of who he is. And Minerva, before this happens, hears him howling. She's like, okay, that's it. I've had enough. I got to go talk to him. This has got to stop up and everything. And when she arrives after his transformation and then she sees what he's become, of course, her reaction, well, let's just put it this way. When let's put it this way. When the female characters, like the female bird, the female rabbit, and the female frog sees him, let's just say, and I say this with all due respect, no offense, let's just say their reactions are a little bit more exaggerated than the male counterparts. Like the female bird, when she sees Wilford, turning into or officially completing, becoming his werewolf, Fabio werewolf alter ego. The female bird, she just stands up like this. Her head kind of springs off her a little bit, and then her eyes bulge out with her pimples bulging out of her eyes. And then the male no, not the male, but then the female rabbit, she sees him, and then her reaction is her eyes bulge out with little hearts replacing her eye pimples, and then her ears start spinning around like a propeller where she flies around, and then suddenly she's flying all the way straight into the ground where she flies and digs herself straight to China, and you get the answer answer to that, or at least you get that, idea that that's what happened because a little Chinese hat pops up. And then the female frog, she sees him, and she doesn't get exaggerated as much as the other two did, but she starts dancing to the point that she kicks off her male companion off a lily pad. So with those reactions by the female bird and rabbit and the frog to an extent, you kind of get an idea of how Minerva might act. And boy, does she react, very Tex Avery wild take wise, if you will, because the moment she walks up to him and tries to say that she's had enough of him trying to win her over and stuff like that, and he turns around and what she sees instead of like nerdy Wilford is handsome, buff Fabio Wilford. Her eyes, she's just like ding. She just suddenly just does that. Her hair sticks out like this, and then her eyes just come right out of her skull or right out of her head, and they just start prancing around, just like looking around all around the body before flying back into her head, and then she does the hubba deal, and then she starts jumping all around, doing little flips and everything before slapping herself back to normal, and then telling Wilford, who she doesn't know is Wilford, to stay right there. And she decides to go off, get her dress again, which she was wearing before she decided to go out and confront him. And then when she comes back, of course, this being a cartoon, Animaniacs, Warner Brother cartoon, while she's gone, all of a sudden the moon gets covered by clouds. Wilford changes back to his nerdy self by sneezing a little bit. And then when she shows back up and she sees that it's the nerdy version and not the Fabio version, she's like, well, what did you do with the guy? And he's like, well, who are you talking about? And, she's describing him and everything, even doing this kind of deal. And what happens, she's looking all around. She shows freaking feats of strength by lifting up a rock and everything, ducking her head under the water and everything. And, just like Wilford, she gets a little sad and thinking, oh, great, I lost, pretty much my dream hunk, my dream boat. And she basically just sighs a little bit, sitting on the rock going like, what a life. And then all of a sudden, that's when she gets a tap on her shoulder because while she's, sighing and saddened at the fact that the hunk of her dreams is gone, that's when the moon reveals itself again. And then, of course, like I said, she gets the tap on her shoulder. She turns around, sees it's him or the Fabio version of him. And then she's like, Yahooey, then she says the line of Yahooey, my man. And then that's, of course, when we get her melting keg. Because like I said, with Wilford, he did a semi-melt to where it looked like when he melted, he was going to be completely melted. But instead, it's a semi-melt with his head sticking out. And he's able to still talk to the point that he says he can't feel his leg because he's melted. And the only thing sticking out is his head. Here, when Minerva does it, when she sees the Fabio version of him for the second time, and then she says, Yahooey, my man, she just stands up like this and just melts completely. You get the sound of, and then she just melts completely. She just lets herself go completely to the point that Wilford, literally, what he has to do, and I'm going to try to get something here as an example. What he has to do is literally, he has to reach down. He has to reach down like this, pick her up like this, like, she's something wet. And okay, let me try to fold this, and I'll give you a better idea. Hold on. Okay, so he picks her up like this. She's wet and everything, and he's complimenting. You're acting mighty strange tonight. You're acting mighty strange. And then he starts doing this with her, and then goes like that to wring her out, to get her back to normal, to restore her. And while he's doing that, he's like, he goes, Ma, you're acting mighty strange today. Well, you're acting mighty strange. Maybe tonight's not a good night to, have a romantic walk under the sunset. He's basically saying the same things to her that she said to him as, in his regular state. And after he restores her and he's saying all that, her head inflates and everything to a balloon to the point that it pops off and floats away, and she has to reach up and grab it and put it back on her. And, he starts to, get on, romantic with her by, after saying, having a romantic walk under the starlight, and then, after, which causes, like I said, her head to float up and everything, and then he holds her close and saying, we can snuggle up nice and cozy, and all of a sudden that causes her to kind of faint and everything, or fall backwards. But as she does that again, this being an Animaniacs Warner Brothers cartoon, the moon gets obscured by the clouds to the point that, when she gets back up and she sees it's not Fabio Wilford, it's Nerdy Wilford and everything, and she's like, oh boy. And then she just falls back again and just passes out of like, oh God, it's like she's happy. She's like, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. And she falls back. And then when she comes back up, and then she sees it's the Nerdy Wilford, she's like, oh boy, and that causes her to pass out again. And then he suddenly changes back to who he is, back to Fabio version. He picks her up, and says, whisper sweet nothings in your ear deal, like she did to him as a nerd. And then when she opens up her eyes and sees it's Fabio version, she tells him to kiss her, and she kisses him, and then she ends up kissing him, to the point that the sun comes up and changes him back while she's doing it. And suddenly she's like, what? Huh? Because she's realizing, instead of kissing Fabio Wilford, she kissed Nerdy Wilford. And she's like, what's going on here? And then she wants to know, what's the deal? And he finally tells her, which perks her up a little bit. She's like, oh, wait a minute. So you're aware, like she's realizing, oh, shoot, this guy's a werewolf. He can become a hunk anytime there's a full moon. So, what happens is she realizing that, she sweetly asks him, when is the next full moon? And he tells her, and then she's just like, good things are worth waiting for. And then that's how the cartoon ends. Overall, it was a great cartoon. It was a great cartoon short, in my opinion, even though originally it was not supposed to be. The other one, Meet Minerva, was, but I thought, for what it was, for, airing, first instead of the other one, I thought it was a great introduction to Minerva, and it gave us an idea of what to expect from her and what to expect from the male characters that react to her and vice versa. So I enjoyed it, and I highly recommend. I know people, let me say this. I know people may have seen it, but if not, I highly recommend checking this out. You can find it on Hulu. Animaniacs is on Hulu. You can find it on the DVDs. I think it's Volume 2. It's on the first disc of Volume 2 of the DVD. So check it out if you can. And I think you can find it somewhat in parts here in the YT. But check it out. I think you will thoroughly enjoy Moon Over Minerva. It is funny. It is a great animated short to watch in time for Halloween. And again, when it comes to the video I did yesterday on the 5 variations of the lustful milk cake, you'll get an idea of exactly 2 of them that I talked about in the video yesterday that take place here. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are on Moon Over Minerva. What did you think about it the first time you saw it? How did you, what did you think about Minerva melting, more completely than Wilford did? What were your thoughts on that? Let me know down below. Comment if you like in the live chat during the premiere, which I'm sure you have. Comment down below, like I said, in the comment section. Like the video. Check me out at patreon.com/bwroses, as well as check me out at bwroses on Venmo, bwroses discussions on all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Also, check me out on Venmo if you want to help donate there as well. So until next time, guys, I will talk to y'all later. But again, check this out. and hopefully you'll enjoy it.